everybody, it's Theme Park Avenue, I'm Eric, and as promised, park battles are going to resume today. Today I will start with the two Busch Gardens parks, Tampa and Williamsburg. Quick bit of background, Busch Gardens Tampa is African themed and Busch Gardens Williamsburg is European themed. Also, my home park is Busch Gardens Tampa, so I have some bias. And as far as roller coasters go, I will just review based on individual roller coasters. Every category will be worth 1 point, including each roller coaster. And things like food and shows will be based on experiences. The overall park experience will not really be taken into account for me, because that would mean Tampa would automatically win. Nonetheless, let's get on with the roller coasters. Our first matchup are the two B&M Inverts, Alpengeist and Montu. And yes, Alpengeist is much taller, but there is no beating Montu. It is easily the best ride at Busch Gardens Tampa. It's wildly intense, the Batwing element is incredibly strong, and it's one of the best inverts out there, only losing to Banshee at Kings Island in my opinion. The first point goes to Tampa. Now for the family loopers, Scorpion is a Schwarzkopf, and Loch Ness Monster is an aerodynamics coaster. This aero model is a lot smoother than most, it is very fun, and the interlocking loops are pretty cool. I do enjoy Scorpion, though it can be somewhat rough sometimes, so I will say Loch Ness Monster is the winner of this matchup. Now for the two B&M Dive Coasters, and this is a pretty tough one. Griffin is taller, faster, and has another inversion, so I think I'll be going with that one. But I do enjoy B&M Dive Coasters, I think they're underrated. I like Sheikra a lot, but I will say Griffin earns this point. Let's get this one out of the way. The Skyrocket 2 models, they're the same, so both parks will get a point. If one had comfort collar and one didn't, quote-unquote comfort collar, of course, because it's not very comforting, the one that did not have the comfort collar would win. So both have it, though, so that means they tie. Family launch coasters will be next. Verbolten's elaborate theming is really good, but it's also a bit slower, and Cheetah Hunt does have a longer and more thrilling layout. It is easily the better ride. Now for the largest B&M coasters in the park. Of course, a lot of enthusiasts really like Kumba. I think it's like one of the best B&Ms even. My issue is that, given how many times I've ridden it, it can have some really rough rides sometimes that are not intense more than bumpy. So I think I will give it to the B&M Hyper for this one. Another matchup to get out of the way are the two Kiddie Coasters. They're clones, so both parks will be getting a point. Also, gotta quickly point out, Alpine Express has these like fake pine trees to look like the Alps, but it has this weird sandy pebble ground that makes it look more like a desert, so that was a fail. And now let's round out the roller coaster matchups with the new for 2020 rides. I know Pantheon looks like it'll be pretty cool. I think it looks like it could be a bit overrated because that backward launch thing really looks like they're overdoing it. And the layout's just not as strong as Iron Gwazi's. I have not been on them, of course, but you know what? I think an RMC, tallest and fastest and all that stuff, not to mention the really cool looking inversions of pacing, I think Iron Gwazi will be the better of the two. That rounds up the actual matchups. They were tied before this. The extra coasters, I will be giving 1 point for Invader at Williamsburg, and 2 points to Tampa, 1 for Cobra's Curse, 1 for Sand Serpent, though it's hardly worth any points at all. Moving on to the thrill rides, Falcon's Fury is the better drop tower of the two, quite obviously. Even if you haven't been on Falcon's Fury, you've heard about its tilting seats. It's taller, it's faster, it's my favorite drop tower in the world, so it will be getting the points. There is another flat ride at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, however, Finnegan's Flyer, a recent S&S Spearman swing, so there will be a point for that park. Another point will be going to Busch Gardens Williamsburg for Battle for Erie, I don't know. It's a motion simulator ride that Busch Gardens cannot counter, so it will be earning an extra point. The two parks are now tied. Now for the water rides. Busch Gardens Tampa used to have 3 along with Williamsburg. Williamsburg still has all 3, but Tampa got rid of one for Tigris. They both have a rapids ride and a log flume. but the additional Escape from Pompeii is what earns Williamsburg an extra point. Williamsburg has now taken the lead. Now for other rides, Williamsburg has way more non-thrill based rides and water rides than Tampa. I don't have the exact numbers here, but take my word for it. Williamsburg has another point. Now for one of the most important features at a Busch Gardens park, the animal attractions. While Williamsburg has some wolves and foxes and not much else, Tampa has a lot of African animals to see. The Rhino Rally used to be a great way to see it, but I feel like that's one of the big draws of the park, so Tampa definitely earns the points for this one. Tampa is slightly catching up now. Now for the shows. Williamsburg has won a few awards for shows in the past, but that was 20 or so years ago. Now Busch Gardens has more impressive animal shows at Tampa, actually. And while there are some good ones at Williamsburg, like the Oktoberzest and Celtic Fire, I think the ice skating show and the variety at Tampa will give it the point. The two parks are now tied once again. One of the toughest categories for me is the food, because I really enjoy Busch Gardens food. I think it's delicious, especially the Serengeti Overlook and Zambia Smokehouse. Great barbecue, and a really strong buffet-style meal. However, I'm well aware that Williamsburg has won awards for their food, and they do lean heavily into the European thing. They have Greek, they have Italian, they have German foods. So I think that variety and the Golden Ticket Awards will earn Williamsburg the points. Now for theming. The so-called world's most beautiful theme park, Busch Gardens Williamsburg, does have more detailed theming and a more interesting theme than Tampa. Because, honestly, I think the European theme carries over a lot better than the African one. Both of them try to look like these regal, royal sort of things. However, I feel Williamsburg does earn a lot of the respect in its landscaping and theming. Granted, both are well themed, and there are more beautiful parks. Even Coaster Studios agrees that Tokyo Disney Sea is better. I'll have to fight him on that one, but yeah, I'll give the point to Williamsburg. Now for the layouts. Both of them have pretty solid layouts. The one thing you may notice is that Williamsburg has a sort of difficult path to get to the back of the park, the Oktoberfest area, and some of the big rides like Alpengeist and Invader. Meanwhile, Busch Gardens Tampa doesn't have a whole lot of sideways, and it's like one loop with a lot of easy paths to get through to. I have a bit more experience with Tampa, but I still feel it's easier to get from point A to point B in that park, so it will be getting a point. For the operating season, Busch Gardens Tampa will get the point because it is in Florida, is open year-round, while Williamsburg can sometimes be closed given its further north location. The two parks are now tied yet again. Now for prices, a category I don't think really goes into the overall essence of a theme park, but nonetheless, Williamsburg is cheaper, so it will earn the point. Now for the final category, operations. Both are good, but Tampa consistently loads faster, given that rides like Cheetah Hunt load 2 cars at a time. Meanwhile, the not very good for Bolton is a bit slower, partially because of the whole theming thing going on. But I feel that you don't have to wait as long in lines at Busch Gardens Tampa. And that was the last category I had. Wow, we have a tie. We have a tie. On the first battle I do. 13 all, and I wonder how we can break this. I could do best holiday events, though I would easily give that to Tampa because I haven't really experienced Williamsburg's Christmas Town. But there really is no fair way for me to determine a winner because I'll sort of go toward my bias. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have you guys vote in the comments on which one you think deserves to win the whole thing. I will count the votes, and whichever park has the most will be deemed the champion of Busch Gardens. And because those are the 2 best parks in the SeaWorld chain, they will be called the best SeaWorld park. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments below which park you think is better. Sorry it ended on a tie, I was not planning for that. But you guys can help break the tie. I will see you guys next time. And subscribe to make sure you know when the winner is announced.